So are there any good Discord groups out there to learn to trade? So that's what we're going to be covering in this video. I think I get this question quite a bit, or at least I run through it. And this one I ran through on a Facebook post. So oftentimes I'll go through and just look at just different questions on Facebook, Discord, different groups that not that I really look at them per se. I really just use them to gather questions and see what people are talking about. Kind of like think about it like, what are the struggles that people are having? And I see this one come up quite often. Nowadays, it's Discord groups. In the past, many years back, it was Yahoo chat rooms, AOL chat rooms, ICQ, Instant Messenger. Anybody know anybody that can help me? These types of things, the seminars you'd go to, trade alerts by email. All of these things have changed with mediums over time. But what has stayed the same is just people's desire for recommendations as far as, hey, who can I learn from, or trade alerts that I can get? Where should I go for that? And I often find that when you see a question like this, it often means the person is either unskilled in the strategy that they're working through, or they don't have their own system that they're doing on their own. So they're looking for trade suggestions. Usually that's the case. I mean, it's not always the case, but oftentimes that's the case. And this becomes a very dangerous proposition if you're in that situation, because what happens is that when you go into these areas, and let's say you had a question about a trading strategy, or, hey, anybody think about, what do you think about this stock? Everybody's opinion is going to be different, and everybody's time horizon is different. The risk tolerance is different. Not to mention the people answering your question, you don't know if they're, let's say, a black belt expert in options trading or trading overall, or they're kind of like a green belt or a yellow belt, or kind of at the basic level. So everybody is different, and you don't know the person answering your question at what level they really are at. So it's difficult to kind of gauge. Usually when I work with people kind of one-on-one, we already know the level they're at because I've worked with them for, let's say, a month in. I kind of can gauge already where they're at, where they've been, what they're doing. So when they have a question, it's very easy for me to answer. And then once you get into 3 months of working with somebody one-on-one, definitely a lot easier. So similar to people when we do like group coaching programs and that kind of stuff, it's the same thing. The other thing you got to really be careful of, again, this is stock twits, but watch out for a lot of these rooms. They're usually more like a cheerleading session. There's a lot of hype and pump and so on. So when you look at this, all right, so here we are logged in. And when we start looking at something like this, what you'll find is, even just looking at, let's go with NVIDIA here, and let's look at this one. What you'll find is usually a lot of just pumping, market pump like this, crash 22%, Black Monday. You can tell this one's going higher, blah, blah, blah. And then there's always like a little bit of news. So what it does is starts to influence your brain a bit of all this dopamine of, hey, yeah, there's more people saying it's going higher, or there's more people saying it's going lower, but you now have no clear strategy or perspective of what you're doing. Or like, I just need 133. NVIDIA inside ownership down to a mere 4%, or it's not even funny anymore. So it's just a lot of gossip. And what you find is there's very little substance that'll actually grow you. In fact, when you look at evolving as a trader, there's kind of a couple main things that I always talk about. That is money management, the mindset, and the method or the strategy is kind of what you need. And inside of all of that, there's some core things to work. Like inside of, let's say, money management, it's position sizing, diversifying, spreading money, capturing gains, protecting your wealth. All those things are important, but do you see any of that in chat rooms? Not really. Method, like finding, selecting, executing orders. How do you evolve a strategy, managing positions? All these things. Again, you usually will not see that in these different chat rooms, groups, whatever. So my thing is that if you're ever looking for group recommendations or things like that, be very careful on the reasoning behind it. And if you're kind of new and you don't have your own strategy, your own discipline, and your own methodology for that, there's going to be a lot more noise behind it. And the more noise that you have, the more difficult it becomes to actually learn properly. And you could be creating some really terrible and bad habits that eventually will just take longer to break. And not only that, your probably wasting your time. So anyways, I hope this gives you a little insight. As for the groups, trade alerts, all that stuff, they're always changing. And if you want to go in and kind of use something just as some notification system, you got to make sure that you have your own strategy already in place, have your own methodology in place, your own money management strategy in place. Because if you don't, what's going to end up happening is different people are going to answer your questions in different ways. The level you won't know, and even then, it's not always going to improve you. You think you're going to be learning from examples, but you really don't know which you missed out on or lost out on. And when things are going against you, you might ask for advice, and even then, you won't understand why you're doing what you're doing. You're kind of going on a whim based on some suggestive things, and really the substance behind it is going to be very limited, or you might not even get the help that you need. So be careful when you do those things, because that's usually the issues I see people run into when I work with them one-on-one. They told me they've already been into a bunch of Discord groups, or they've tried other things, and it's usually these types of issues that kind of start creating some problems and issues for them, because there's just a bunch of stuff overwhelmed, a lot of cheerleading, and very little substance. So anyways, hope that helps, gives you a little tip and insight, and maybe I'll see you in the next video. Take care.